Yes, I made a video today about mental illness and its tie-in to religion. My mom was very religious, and I grew up in a house that was very strict as far as that. Only to me, not my brother. My brother could get away with whatever the hell, but I was the one trying to get my mom to love me, and for her to love me, I had to be religious. I had to believe what she believed, more or less. I didn't know she had schizophrenia until about 8 years ago, when she started to mentally unravel after chemotherapy. Then I had to do a crash course, basically, so I could try to understand my mother and understand how to deal with her in a way that made it tolerable for me. So I had to read a little bit about schizophrenia and the symptoms of schizophrenia, and no surprise now when I look at religious people, the more closed-minded they are, the more like my mother they seem to me. I'm not going to read very much because that's basically why I made the video. I think I'm very clear in my video. The types of thinking that I regard as mentally or very similar to mental illness. Saying that there's no such thing as atheists because a book says there's no such thing as atheists is bullshit. And I'm sorry, anybody who walks around and thinks that the world is a certain way because of a book, or that reality is a certain way because of a book, or that supernatural beings exist because of a book, have some serious problem mentally. And I'm sorry if that offends, but it's a book. People can't seem to wrap their mind around the fact that it's a book. And you have people dedicating their entire life, their entire life's work to trying to figure out how the world works, how the forces of nature work, you know. And these people are holding on to a book that's like written by peasants, uneducated people. Actually, they weren't. They were written by. I'm pretty sure a lot of it was written by intelligent, educated people hired by the church. But anyway, the point is they disregard science. They disregard things that are right in front of them. I mean, I'm sorry if you've ever gone into a cave, if you've ever looked at the side of a cliff and seen the layers of I'm trying to think of what that's called. It's been a while since I was digging for stones. Well, it's debris, but there's another word for it. The various layers of rock and dirt that build up over centuries and centuries and centuries. The earth is really old. People who walk around and saying, well, the earth is only 6,000 years old are sick. People who think that everything was just, God just said things into existence and everything was made from nothing because some God said, let there be, and it went poof, are sick. There's all kinds of, the world itself has its own history, its own story in the dirt, in the ground. Everywhere you look, you know, in geology and archeology and just the stars themselves. There's so much around us that tell us how the world came to be. You know, and it's exciting and it's wonderful. And people who look at science like it's a threat and want to have like blinders on and only see this little world, this little bit right here. And if they get new information, they have to filter it. They put it through filters and pick out just little bits of it that will fit into their little world. And anything that doesn't fit into their little world, they come up with oversimplifications of it. Oh, well, that's ridiculous. And, you know, we're not from monkeys. They take the entire thing of evolution and they say, we're not from monkeys. That's not even what the science is, but that's what they say to make it so they can throw it out. It's like they're in denial of reality. They don't want to see reality. They want reality to be what this little book says, and if this little book, if it goes against what this little book says, it's not really true. I'm sorry, but when you're walking around in denial of life, of the planet that you're walking on, that, I mean, that's illness. That is, I don't care if you want to have a warm fuzzy belief and believe that you have an invisible friend and that, you know, he cares about you and stuff and it gives you comfort. Great. You know, I did that for a really long time, but I never blocked out science. I still let it in. I still went. I was into paleontology as a Christian. You know, maybe that's why I'm not anymore. I don't know. But the point is, it is a mental illness when you deny reality. It is a mental illness when you look at scientists with disdain and dismiss every scientific discovery that is actually based on somebody's hard repeated testing and retesting and retesting. It's like, yeah, and science finds something that they think is true until they disprove it and find something that's even more true or closer to the truth. That's progress. That's searching for the truth. It's not going, oh, well, you know, I really like this truth here, so anything else is wrong because this truth here is really good and I really like this truth. How is that seeking the truth? Oh, I've already found the truth. Thank you very much. I don't need to hear any more because this is truth. This is truth. I've already found it. I'm really happy with it. I don't want to hear any more. How is that? How is that anything but mental illness? You know, I am so convinced that this book is true and that all these little warm fuzzy verses that I've been fed since I was a kid is true, that I don't want to hear anything else from anybody else. And I'm going to oversimplify all these really complicated sciences that people study, and not just ordinary people, but really smart people study. You know, I'm smart. I'm pretty smart, but there's no way in the world I could be one of these people that I could never be a scientist. I don't have the brains for it. You know, I stand back and I'm like the audience. You know, when it comes to the stage, there's the actors that put on the show, and then there's the audience that enjoy this show and appreciate the show and reap the benefits. I'm one of the people in the audience. You know. And the scientists are the actors on stage, you know? Thank God for them there, and I hate saying that, but what else am I going to say? It's been drummed into my head since I was a little kid. Thank the flying spaghetti monster that those scientists are there and that they've devoted their whole lives to finding out how things work. Because I'd like to know how things work. I'd like to know why things happen the way they do in nature. That's interesting to me, and I like reality. I think reality rocks. I don't have blinders over I'm not in denial. I'm not stuck on a book and thinking that everything in this little book is true and this is how things really, because a book says it's true. How is that not mental illness? I've actually heard Christians say that they've heard God's voice. How is that not mental illness? How is talking to somebody and hearing your I'm sorry, we all have that little inner voice. It's called our I personally give it a name. It's my rational self. My rational self sometimes goes to war with my irrational self, which is my heart. My heart is the side of me that is totally driven by emotion and doesn't reason, doesn't think, just reacts. Fight or flight, that's my heart. My brain is my rational side that controls all that. And when I am in depression and I'm having depression, it's causing a chemical imbalance in my brain, and my brain is no longer able to control the emotions, and then everything goes haywire and I become a loose cannon and toxic to friends and lose friends. You know, people who don't think that chemicals do anything to our brains. Haven't really had any issues with chemical imbalance. Anyway, I hope I've made some kind of point in all this. I think religious thinking is a form of mild mental illness. I do. I think anybody who puts a book as fact and everything that a book says is fact has issues. You know, I don't know if you'd go so far as calling it illness, but has issues mentally. I had issues mentally when I was religious. Not so much because I did not put up walls against science. I was very inquisitive and curious about the world even when I was a Christian. But when I see people online that put down science and put down, I mean, I'm sorry, they're sitting here working on computers, you know, and they walk around with cell phones and they take advantage of all the scientific advancement in medicine. They reap the rewards of science every single day, and yet they put their nose in the air and they ridicule scientists, and it pisses me off. It's like, you know what? That's mental illness when you block out what is reason, when you block out the search for truth because you're so in love with what you think is the truth that you won't look any further than your own nose. That's a kind of mental illness. My mom has schizophrenia. She cannot see past her world. Her world is all about the fact that she has won billions of dollars from several Reader's Digest contests. She's got money in safety deposit boxes all around the world. She's got people who run her money for her. She's got people who pay her bills for her. She has people who are after her, trying to kill her. This is all her world. And if you say anything at all to my mother that indicates that you doubt her, or that you disagree with her, or you question her mental capacities, she goes ballistic. She gets so angry at you for doubting her and disbelieving her and telling her she's wrong. She gets so angry. How dare you question me? How different is religious thinking to my mother? Not very different. You go up to a Christian and you start telling them that you don't believe, they think you're crazy. They think that you're dysfunctional. They think that you're you know, they call you stupid and they tell you that you're not enlightened and you're lost and you need to be saved. They look at you like you're the one dysfunctional if you don't believe in their delusion. That's exactly what my mother does. So yes, I think mental illness and religion are very similar. I think people who look at a book and think that that book is true because it says it's true have problems mentally. I know it because I kind of was that way. Luckily, I wasn't as much as other people. I never, and maybe that's why, like I said, that's why I'm not anymore, because I let enough of that in the door that the door finally flew open and I wasn't able to believe anymore. But I'm sorry, anybody who is truly wanting to know the truth doesn't get stuck with blinders on going, this is the truth, this is the space, right here is true and everything else is not true. That's not somebody who wants to know what's true. That's somebody who's fallen in love with a set of beliefs and they don't want to see anything else but that set of beliefs. That book is all they want to see. And that is a type of mental illness, and it causes a lot of harm in the world. It causes a lot of bigotry and hatred and distorted thinking. It's another thing I learned a lot about dealing with my own problems with depression and chemical imbalance and anxiety. Distorted thinking. Going up to people that you don't even know and calling them an abomination because of something they do in their private life, because a book says that they're abominations. Calling people names that you don't even know. Labeling people as abominations that you don't even know. Saying that a God thinks this or a God thinks that. when you're just a little peon finite being? How the hell do you think you know what a God thinks or a God feels? How arrogant is that? Oh, it's because a book says. How is that not distorted thinking? How is that not mental illness? So yes, you guys can thumb down that video. You can disagree with it all you want. You can get all indignant and self-righteous about that video, but I stand by it. I do think that mental illness and walking around with blinders on thinking that a book is reality is mental illness, and I think it's a bad thing. And I'm going to fight it. I am going to fight it with every ounce of my being for the rest of my life, because I've seen what mental illness did to my mother and is doing to my mother. I see what mental illness does to people's lives. And you know what? When you're mentally ill, you don't see the damage that it's causing you, but other people do. So anyway, this got a lot longer than I wanted to, but I feel very strongly about this topic, and I'm not changing my mind about this one because it's hit really close to home for me. So thanks for watching if you have. Bye.